Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, John Donovan.
Hey, Marty Keller.
Hey, got that right. Thanks a lot. I'd like to
Uh,
welcome everybody to our weekly podcast here in the intentional living world. Uh, we are here to continue to take a look at breaking patterns of behavior that keep showing up even when I say I don't want them. I don't want to experience this. I don't want to do that, and I still feel a compulsion to feel it or do it anyway. So we're essentially working on demystifying those patterns of behavior so that we can actually be free to create the lives that we really want as full-fledged mature adults. A lot of this stuff is lingering leftover unhealed trauma from childhood, and for some of us that's a long, long time ago.
yeah,
And
yeah,
the longer I've lived, the more I've reinforced those old patterns. So that's why those compulsions, at least in my experience, have always felt so strong because they've been around a long, 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 long time. And that mechanism in my mind that judges what's right or wrong only looks for those things that reinforce those earliest patterns of belief. So um, we can change those. That's the good news. And we'll use the process that John developed called the accountability tree. And
hmm
John will show us that a little bit on the board on his workboard shortly. And today, what we want to focus on is the first part of the tree process. So the accountability tree is an actual process that we use to get into the what's behind the compulsions, to get into the truth of um, what's going on inside me. And so we want to talk a little bit about that truth. What is the truth? How do I find that in order to take advantage of what the accountability tree has to offer?
hmm
Your
yeah,
thought.
yeah. Um, let me bring the boardwork up.
Okay.
Um, oh, wait a minute. Okay, now I'll bring the boardwork up. This is what we call the basic material or the boardwork, um, and the process, what we're calling the accountability tree, is a practice to heal unresolved complex post-traumatic stress. Most of it derived from family of origin childhood trauma. Um, and for the people who've been around a long time, there's some difficulty in finding out what that one statement is. What's my truth? Um, and the results of my trauma, complex post traumatic stress, display. So the results where I find myself are the display or the results of complex post-traumatic stress. The childhood trauma, pre-verbal, nonverbal, um, with the rest of whatever trauma is in there that we can either remember or don't remember, doesn't matter, um, leads to choices based on that trauma that led me to codependency, addiction, and some type of avoidant behavior. And going to work for me was an avoidant behavior. I was a workaholic. And what I was avoiding was what was happening internal with me in the moment, my feeling body. So I say to heal this trauma, even though we don't know what it is, and it's not available to us in our consciousness. So how do you heal something you don't know what it is? The only thing you know, something there, or these results of display would be something different. Um, like the capacity to set healthy boundaries. Instead of codependent, I would be interdependent in a functioning relationship. Okay. So what I say, the way out is creating an emotion equal to or greater than the trauma that we have stored in our subconscious. And to create that feeling tone, raise in frequency or awareness of pain, a hurt, dismissal, which has no words, it's just a feeling tone. I tell people and lead people through this process of what I call the accountability tree. It's my ability to account for the display of the post-traumatic stress or the results of my choices. So that truth, stated without blame or judgment, has encoded in it the trauma or the pain that caused the choice for that result. Um, one of the ones I use that's the obvious one is my truth based on where I find myself at 40 years old. I'm an alcoholic. Um, so I just say that truth, blame free, judgment free. And this result is what I needed to survive. So if I just accept where I'm at and say it and not go like, oh, I'm a dumbass for being an alcoholic, or I'm weak, degrade myself or judge myself or criticize myself, just simply say, I'm an alcoholic. Bring it up here to what we're calling my truth. When I say that without blame or judgment, criticism, and I take a breath, the feeling tone I'm in is actually a validation of the pain, trauma that caused the alcoholism. I feel that. I don't have to know, I don't have to name. I simply experience a feeling tone of what I have underneath this bracketed place is self-validation. Um, and when that happens, the the acceptance of where I am and the impact of where I am, I feel. Alcoholism created where I find myself, which is separated from my first wife and my children, living in a friend's bedroom, a spare bedroom. So I feel that, and then I, in that feeling tone, say, I intend to be sober. I intend to forgive myself. I intend to be kind. I intend to be um, alcohol free, whatever the intent is. So um, I hope that's clear, but I also know that when I'm speaking about my truth and I'm asking somebody to say it, like I am an alcoholic, that is actually um, something that I was told or felt afraid of saying because I didn't want to be seen as what I thought was weak. So I didn't say it. Um, so in the saying, I remember the first time I said, I'm an alcoholic in a meeting, and I felt something. I just, I wasn't, I can tell you what I wasn't. I wasn't shamed. I wasn't guilted. I wasn't criticized. Nobody in the room said anything other than I felt this acceptance and validation. And what came to me in that feeling tone was, I'm going to come back to this meeting. I'm going to come back, which was different than before I owned that truth. And I'm when I say my truth, if I'm owning a character defect or a flaw or a proclivity like being mean, I'm mean. I used to be really, really mean. And I simply own that. I mean, that statement has encoded in it the feeling tone or the pain that informed my decisions that led me to meanness for the purpose of my survival. It worked, it kept people away. Of course, this was all subconscious. I had no idea. I had to like explain why I found myself separated and living in a friend's spare bedroom, um, which was either I had to say I'm a failure, I couldn't do it, I'm like, or I had to blame her to make up a reason why I was separated instead of just owning um, that I was wounded. I don't know. I'm seem to be. You got a thought or question to
Well, I
help
think there's
clarify
a
this?
yeah. I always have a lot of questions.
Good, good.
Uh, so there's a couple of things here I noted down here, and one is the one that you were just referring to now, which is that the truth that we're speaking of here, which you have pointed out on your display board there, is the result of this childhood trauma and my defending. So you have up there survival mechanism,
Yeah,
and the bottom near the bottom of the center, yeah, exactly there. So what happens is, as a little child, I have these experiences. Most of them, the words we would use today are, I'm experiencing something that feels like abandonment. I'm
right,
feeling something that feels like detachment. Um,
right. Or
I'm feeling,
ridicule, or
that's how it may show up, as ridicule or neglect. It could show up as being
yeah,
ignored. It could
yeah,
show up in a myriad of kinds of ways, either aggressive or passive. And the experience that I'm having in my little boy body is an overwhelming fear and terror that
yep,
I cannot bear.
right,
Actually, I have a hard time bearing it now as an adult. I can bear it as an adult, but I think of I have a little picture of myself on the that I have here in my Zoom, my little Zoom picture of myself when I was one, and I deliberately have that because I want to appreciate what that little body had to absorb
yes,
emotionally.
yes,
And the only defense that any of us can make is to find something else to attach to that's not quite as awful as that abandonment terror. So it can
right,
be, and it's there's your flight, fight, freeze, please. It can be a version of that.
right,
And as you've said in other podcasts, this often is related to adrenaline,
yep,
some kind of, again, and adrenaline becomes a substitute. So all of that is to say that the truth that I eventually had to come face to face with to do the tree in the way it's designed was a result of this defense that led to behaviors that I was not necessarily proud of. I was not, that I may have been ashamed of
right,
in some kind of way where, as little kids know, that's, pushing people away through manipulation or passive aggressive behavior probably ain't the best thing in the world. And like you said earlier, all of this stuff is totally subconscious.
yep,
There's almost no dialogue going on in my conscious mind about these things. There's this deep intuitive energy. So by all that, I can have an intellectual understanding of why, when I come to finally confront and speak my truth, I'm saying that
hmm,
word deliberately, I should do it without blame or judgment,
right,
because I didn't consciously choose the defense mechanism that yielded all of these behaviors.
right,
So, from a logical perspective, no blame, no judgment. Now, I'm asking you, as a man who has facilitated people doing this work for years and years and years, what's the key to helping people say these truths, these difficult truths, these truths that we have become addicted to avoiding,
right.
to say them without blame or judgment?
right? And the avoidance would be the awareness of that's where we're at. We're in a mean behavior. We're in a alcoholic pattern of drinking that we can't break. Um,
Yeah, it goes to those compulsive behaviors that we talked about at the beginning of every podcast.
right. So if I'm saying that these behaviors or patterns, and that's what the behaviors are, a display of complex post-traumatic stress, unresolved
Right.
complex post-traumatic stress. So these results are a display of unresolved childhood trauma, preteens, teens, 20s, 30s, depending on how old you are. Trauma that we have stored in our subconscious. That trauma is activated anytime we're in a situation with people, places, and things. And this mechanism, the reticular activating system, which is the filter and an alert system, mainly an alert system to danger. And it's hooked directly into the adrenal glands, which is the um, fight, flight, freeze, please, adrenaline state. It's actually a chemical state. So something in my subconscious experience, let's say I'm in a room full of people and I'm talking, and I notice out of the corner of my eye that one of the other people in the room are rolling their eyes. And then my reaction is wanting them to stop or attack them. Like, what are you doing? How come you did that? Take it personal. Or I want to leave the room for no apparent reason that's visible to anybody at the moment, but I want to get out, or I start feeling panicky or anxious. That reaction response, oops, is um, linked to the trauma. So if I own that, say somebody rolls their eyes, I go into a panic attack. Okay, so I'll just say I go into a panic attack when somebody rolls their eyes. That's the truth. Now, these behaviors, any behavior, Marty, isn't who we are. In our childhood, we were told that's who we were. Not smart enough, a burden. We were told you're a burden. Well, that's a lie. Only as children, we don't know that we don't equivocate. We simply accept I'm a burden. So it goes into my subconscious. Something happens in my relationship life, and the first place I go to is I'm a burden. And I react either in a codependent way, like you said, passive aggressive, or I leave and go get drunk, or I pick up a beer. I start screaming and yelling because one of my avoidant behaviors was rageaholic. I would raise my voice and demean, diminish.
And
As
fright.
a tech, as a technique to avoid the feeling, which I didn't even know what it was. So,
And you didn't even know you were trying to avoid it.
and I had no idea I was trying to avoid it. This mechanism is working in my subconscious for my welfare, for my survival. And subconscious means I don't know. I'm not aware. So when I say the truth of where I find myself, and I say, well, we've been using the one, I'm an alcoholic. And I say, I'm an alcoholic. That's actually uncovering the lie. Because I am, in my essence, um, gentle, loving, empowering man. Now, my behaviors are codependency, addiction, or avoidant behavior. So when I say the behavior, blame free, judgment free, and I say I'm codependent, let's stick with that one. it's linked to the trauma. That word, whatever phrase we come up with, that's considered disparaging, like don't talk like that about yourself. Well, I'm going to say, yeah, don't talk to yourself about yourself that way outside of this process of blame-free, judgment-free. If I own my behaviors for the purpose of healing, then say it all day long. It's contained, it's in a container, it's in a safe place, it's in a healing place. So I'm mean. Nice deep breath. Uh, this goes, yeah, 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 yeah. This is what, and it's all subconscious. It's a feeling tone. What my body experiences is a sloughing, is a release, is a relax moment. That's the what I mean by self-validation.
Okay, but
And
but that's that's critical. And my question is, because that's all a very logical explanation. Now I'm in the meeting for the first time and I'm confronting, let's say it's the first time I'm going to consider owning I'm an alcoholic.
okay.
My question is, as a facilitator, how do you help me find a judgment and blame free way to do that? How do you help people deal with that wall of shame and hesitation and judgment that automatically has been there forever and ever, to be able to step over it in order to do this process?
Oh, well, I don't start here. I ask anybody, any new person that comes to my class, what do you want that you don't have? I talk about my struggle with the patterns of behavior that I was in, finding I couldn't get out of them. So they hopefully they relate to that. So I said, what do you want that you don't have? And some people say, I want to live in peace. I want to be at ease. Um, I want to set healthy boundaries. Okay, so that's something they want. Um, so when I'm leading them through the obstacles and then explaining this process, and I say, own your behaviors, most people like you go blank. So I say, the results where I find myself is a direct result of the trauma. So if I simply own wherever that is and take it to the tree. So I said, and people like you go blank. So I say, okay, for the purpose of you getting what you say you want, trust me. Or I'm giving you the information for you to move to that. You may not like the information I'm hearing. You may uh, want to be defensive about what you hear me saying. That's all true. It's all good. So if you say you want peace of mind, I'm going to give you the information that will assist you to get to peace of mind. So find a character defect and then bring it to the tree. And again, blank. Okay, so I say, I'm going to give you an example of what to take. If somebody agrees that they want to do the tree, but they don't know what their truth is, I say, oh, okay, cool. I'm going to say 5 words. And then you tell me which one of these words that you resist the most, that you don't want to be tagged with. And then I'll say arrogant, entitled, mean, controlling, needy. And one of those words hits them like no. And then I say, well, just take that to the tree. Let's say I don't want to be needy. I'm not needy. Okay, say just bring it up here and see. Blame free, judgment free, and say I'm needy, and then take a breath, and then notice what happens. And for the most part, they'll try it, and they'll say, okay, I'm needy. And I watch them and I can see a shift and I go, that, okay, that's the emotion. What do you want to replace this truth or behavior with? I'm needy. What would you like to replace it with? I intend to be gracious. I intend to forgive myself. I intend to, um, I like gracious. I intend to be gracious, or I intend to be kind. I intend to love myself. And after having this experience, what I call self validation, they know something they may not yet understand. They
Right.
have an experience of something, and it's different. There's something different happens. So if the person owns I'm needy, takes a breath, feels something, and then goes, I intend to love myself just the way I am. Well, that adds another experience to their total consciousness. 9/10 of it goes into the subconscious. Some of it remains in the consciousness. So now when they make a decision confronted with the same things they've been confronted with, they make a different choice and they find themselves in a different place. And it could be minimally different or it could be majorly different. It's different. And when they get the connection to the difference of their feeling tone, here's how I say something worked in there. I say, when you first said I'm needy, you notice that you had a lot of resistance to that, or you had um, a hit when you said it, right? And they go, yeah. I said, let's say it again. Let's see if just saying the word in this context, my truth, I'm needy, feels the same. Excuse me. And they'll do it and they'll go, I'm needy. And right off the bat, it's not as powerful, it's not as resistant, not as something is different. Because the first time they did it, they healed something. They validated something inside them. So the next time they hear it, it's different. That's healing. Different is healing. So, and then they see the value in finding whatever that statement is for them, not my statements, their statements of describing where they find themselves, taking it to the tree boldly with courage. I'm I'm mean to the point of cruelty is one of mine. I'm mean to the point of cruelty. Took my breath. It's just like, yeah, oh my God, I intend to be kind. And then the behaviors now become in alignment with the new total information base in the subconscious. Every time I heal, take an edge off one of these hooks, if I had a pin, I'd draw a circle right here, a circle of me experiencing self acceptance, me experiencing self nurturing or self validation. So now the information that this mechanism is drawing from is different, and the results change automatically. Because, like I said, we don't know what was in there. We do know something that created this predicament I found myself in, this either self-aggrandizing or self-deprecating consistent thought pattern I have. Take it up here, and that's another one. I'm self-deprecating. I hate myself. Ooh, oh, I intend to love myself just the way I am. And my perceptions shift. I don't know if that helped. Hopefully that helped some.
Yeah, and it's we're going to be winding up here, so I just wanted to review that what we wanted to do today was to dig deep into what we mean and the accountability tree there at the top, my truth, what we mean by that. And what we mean by that is the subconscious behaviors that we have engaged in as a natural way to defend ourselves from those original traumas that we experienced as little kids before we
Yeah,
had any ability
yeah,
to make a choice. We didn't have words yet. All we had was emotion. So
yeah,
we began by developing an emotional state, and we became addicted to that emotional state because it was a way of staying safe from those deeper and more unmanageable fears and terrors of abandonment. And without any intervention, they just kept reinforcing themselves through all of our lives, through childhood, adolescence, early adulthood.
Yep.
middle age, etc. You get to be the ripe old age that John and I are,
Yep.
and we start at some place in those years. If we have an intervention of some kind that allows us to get into this work, then we find an environment that's blame free and judgment free, just as AA is for the person who is deciding to go sober, to become
Right.
sober.
Yep.
There's a surrounding sense of acceptance and no blame, which I would call love. There's a loving environment
Yeah.
that encourages us to be willing to speak those truths, to find them, and with the skilled support of a facilitator like yourself or myself, we can pretty much help people find those hidden truths and give them the opportunity to create something new by speaking the truth and noticing what happens in our bodies.
Yeah.
And for the most part, as you said, there's some kind of sense of relief, a sloughing off, an opening up. That was my experience the first time I did this. Um, and that opening is an opening to something new. And now we are bringing our conscious power to create an intention. What do I want? I intend to
Yep.
feel confident. I intend to feel
Yep.
carefree. I intend to feel uh, comfortable in my own skin.
Yes.
And any one of those then becomes the basis, the bottom of the tree there of self validation, living intentionally, living in freedom. So, thanks, John, for walking us through that. This is
You're welcome.
essential to um, getting the accountability tree to do what it's designed to do for each of us.
Right.
And so, before we close, I would just want to invite anybody who's watching this for the first time, or you've watched a couple of these, but you haven't had the experience of doing this work. Please feel free to join one of our meetings. We have 4 meetings a week, different times of the day, and information on how to join them. They're all on Zoom. Will be at the end of the podcast. There'll be the dates, the times, and the Zoom link. So we invite you to come. If you come to a meeting, you can participate either by asking questions or sharing your experiences, or you can participate by saying nothing and just being an observer. Either way, you are welcome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we do lots of splaining here, but the power is in the actual doing. So
Right.
so John, I thank you as always for sharing your wisdom, and I look forward to the next time we can do this.
Thank you, Marty.
Take care.
Yes.